This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha.
Boy, opening day.
Engaging with other children.
He said, Mom, I'm going to go that way and you go the other way.
And he's like, I could do everything without you helping me.
Most of us have faced situations that make us think, man, if only I had this particular thing to satisfy this very specific unmet need. It's partly why the old saying, necessity is the mother of invention, has had such longevity. In the case of Natalie Mackay, a St. Louis region resident, the saying resonates on more than one level. That's because being a mother was very much what motivated her to build something she needed for both herself and for her child. It's also what led her to create Unlimited Play, a nonprofit dedicated to making inclusive playgrounds that everyone can enjoy. Our producer, Aula Kuziz, visited Discovery Playground in St. Charles, Treetop Playground in Clayton, and Angie's Inclusive Playground in Florissant to get a first-hand look at what accessible playgrounds are like. And like any good journalist, she went to the folks directly engaged in play, kids, to find out what they enjoyed most about the playgrounds.
The climber, because you can all do flips on it.
It's really cool, like how big of a space there is, like the climbing space over there, because it's not just like one or two things like there is at some playgrounds. There's like a bunch of different things to do.
The slide would twirl because it's bumpy ride. It's really, really fun. The rock wall, because I can climb on.
Aula also spoke with several parents.
They have some nice shady spots for parents, a couple for kiddos too. Lots of climbing is here, several swings. I love the music.
But I like that it isn't like every other playground. It's got like a nature feel to it, and I like that about it.
The fence is really nice to have around for sure.
That's a big
That's
one.
for big and littles. It's been really nice. That way we can feel a little bit more comfortable letting them run around. And I know like the ramps have been really nice, especially for the little ones to get up. And I know that would be way more accessible, for other little kiddos that would need that too. So that's been really neat to see.
And I mean, even us as moms, like I've had situations where playgrounds weren't even accessible to my stroller in certain places. So like even just having some of those ramps is nice there also too.
I think the parks are pretty great as far as accommodations. I noticed if you look at the swing set, there's just a bunch of different types of swings for the kids to play on. And I think that's important because not all kids can play on the standard swing that you just sit on.
I just think just the different, it's different and innovative from just your typical playground. There are lots of options for all different ages and stages of kiddos, and I think that's really important as well.
That was Emma Lancaster, Sue, Mickey Weaver, Jennifer Marsh, and Ashley Jones speaking with our producer Aula Kuziz at 3 accessible parks in the St. Louis region. Joining me in studio to talk about making playgrounds fun and safe for kids across the spectrum of abilities, we welcome the founder of Unlimited Play, Natalie Mackay. Natalie, welcome to the show.
So nice to be here.
Now, you celebrated the 20-year anniversary of Unlimited Play this year, but tell us how it got its beginning.
So my son Zachary was born with a severe disability. So we would take him to typical playgrounds and he would watch, and it would emphasize his limitations. He would start to ask questions why he couldn't play. And I wanted to fix that problem.
Mm-hmm. And as you were starting to talk about that, what sort of response did you get from the folks you were speaking with?
Honestly, I felt really alone to begin with. Like nobody knew what it was like to have a child with a disability. And as I started to approach the communities, I learned everyone has someone they love that has some kind of disability and needed a playground like this.
Mm-hmm. And that was happening in your home community?
It was in St. Charles County. Yes, for Zachary's Playground, it took us 4 years of engaging and fundraising.
I'd like to invite you to the conversation. If you have a question or comment about accessible playgrounds, give us a call at 314-382-8255. That's 382-TALK. Or you can send us a tweet at STL On Air. You can also email us at talk@stlpr.org. Now, you mentioned 4 years that it took for Zachary's Playground to be built. And this was
We opened in 2007.
And it's in Lake St. Louis?
It is, yes.
What did that process of planning and building entail?
We worked with designers to really, I think we went through 60 designs to make sure they meet beyond ADA standards, what we really needed.
And what were some of the challenges that you faced along the way?
Oh, certainly designers were used to maybe including one ramp, but not ramping throughout the entire structure. Learning from families that have children with autism that also didn't take their children to playgrounds because they needed fencing. So just engaging on what families truly need. And then fundraising, of course, getting out in the community and making people aware of this need and asking for their support.
So we're going to come back to that. But I want you to take us to that moment when Zachary's Playground was complete.
Oh, yeah.
What did that feel like for you and then for your son?
Boy, opening day, Zachary wheeled through. And he literally said, "Mom, I'm going to go that way and you go the other way." Because it provided that freedom for him to just be a kid. It's one of the moments I will forever be grateful for.
And what was it about Zachary's Playground, sort of specific parts of it, that made it such that Zachary could play independently in that way?
Yeah, so there is a sidewalk essentially that goes up and around everywhere. So he can get on the top of all of the structures, access all of the slides. The surfacing, poured in place or tile surfacing, Zachary's is poured in place to make it accessible for individuals like Zach that use mobility devices.
Right.
So many different things.
Yeah. No, you had no idea that you'd be continuing to create more playgrounds, after Zachary's Playground was done. And there are now over 80 across the country that have been designed and built with inclusivity in mind. Now, how does it feel to do something that was initially so personal and then to share it with so many communities in different places?
I feel honored. I get to be part of so many families' journeys and stories that are just like mine and watch as their children play for the very first time. It's an incredible journey.
Yeah. No, insofar as design goes, Erin Gooch is the mother of Teddy, a 7-year-old child born with dwarfism. And Teddy faced lots of limitations at non-inclusive playgrounds, but that was not his experience when he visited Zachary's Playground.
It was phenomenal. Teddy was running around without me. And we got in the car, and Teddy was like, "That was the best play date ever." And I'm like, "Tell me why." He's like, "'Cause I could do everything without you helping me." Because typically when we're on a non-inclusive playground, I'm helping him lift, helping him get on and off things, holding his hand, propping him up to get up the steps to the slides safely, helping him on the monkey bars that he can't reach or they're too far apart. So it's a lot of work for both of us, and we normally leave exhausted physically and mentally. But this time when we were at Zachary's Playground, he could do 90% of everything himself. And then he was like, and you were able to sit there and talk to the other moms, which was, there's a lot for a 6-year-old to notice that he, typically when we do play dates with other groups of families on non-inclusive playgrounds, I'm not on the sideline as a mom talking to the other moms. I'm going down the slides. I'm helping them in and out, but this time I was able to.
Now, you've said that unlimited play that the design goes a step beyond the ADA and fills a gap. So can you talk more specifically about design choices that elevate, accessibility profile? And, fencing is something that you mentioned earlier. Why is it that fencing is so important?
We received so many phone calls from families that have children with autism that just said, hey, Natalie, our children don't understand boundaries and they run into the parking lots and the streets. As hard as they try to not have that happen, fencing is required for safety for those kids. Mm-hmm. So they really ask us to make sure we always include the fencing.
Yeah. We've got Emily calling from St. Louis, and she relates to this. Emily, welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, yes. We have to go to playgrounds that have fencing because my son has autism, and safety is a huge issue. He'll play for a little bit, but then we realized as we were going to non-inclusive playgrounds that we were worried for his safety and running around, and that engagement piece, having that fence that helps with his autism and engaging with other children, and helps us as moms too. We can have a moment to not have to completely be on your toes and worrying all the time. There's a lot of my friends who also have kids that that's a worry. It limits us to where we can go.
Thank you so much for calling, Emily. For you listening out there, if you'd like to share your perspective as well and some of your experiences, give us a call at 314-382-8255. That's 314-382-TALK. Now, fencing is just one part. We're talking about ADA, and truly inclusive is something that has come up. What's the difference between ADA compliant and truly inclusive?
Yeah, so if we talk about surfacing, a lot of the playgrounds you see use mulch, sometimes still pea gravel. Imagine my son's electric wheelchair trying to get through mulch or pea gravel. He can just sink into it, cannot participate, let alone if you're using a manual wheelchair. Mm-hmm. So surfacing like tile or poured in place that they don't even have to think about if it's an issue to navigate that surfacing plays a huge role.
Mm-hmm. So the bouncy surfacing, mm-hmm. What is that technically called?
It's technically called poured in place.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're right. It's bouncy. It's shredded tires underneath.
Mm-hmm. And that's certainly something that I did not see when I was growing up. And it does offer like an extra bit of security.
It does, both safety and accessibility. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are some of the other things or maybe features of playground classically, right, that are inaccessible or even dangerous because of who they were designed for and who they left out?
Yeah, so certainly if we think through Teddy, what we just learned, and Teddy has dwarfism, the size of stairs and how far you have to climb and what handholds, level handholds are at, make it inaccessible for him. Mm-hmm. So we make small adjustments to allow someone like Teddy to navigate better also, mm-hmm. and be a lot safer when they do that.
Right. We're speaking with Natalie Mackay, founder of the St. Peter's-based nonprofit Unlimited Play. The organization is dedicated to creating inclusive playgrounds in Missouri and across the U.S. that are accessible to users all across the spectrum of abilities. There are more than a dozen Unlimited Play playgrounds in the St. Louis region, and our producer Aula Kuziz visited ones in Florissant, Clayton, and St. Charles. Now, many of these playgrounds came to be because parents or guardians wanting inclusive playgrounds for their children and in their community took initiative to get them there. Erin Gooch lives in West County, and after visiting an inclusive playground with her child outside her area, she reached out to you about revamping the playground at Queenie Park. She said that the West County area lacked truly inclusive playgrounds.
It kind of organically came about where I, hey, I'm doing this just to friends of, and then they had friends of friends that had kiddos with unique situations that reached out to me like, this is awesome. How can I help? And so I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to learn from them. I know what works for Teddy, but I don't know what works for that, a child with autism, child who has seizures. There's just a child in crutches, per se, or Down syndrome. So there's the hearing impaired, the visually impaired. So I just kind of got maybe about a handful, maybe 10 moms that really helped me at the beginning with creating the initial design of the playground, like what would work for the equipment and so forth.
So, Natalie, what has come out of Erin's, talking with other moms, and then her reaching out your way and your work with her to improve the inclusivity of Queenie Park's playground?
Yeah, we have a beautiful design in place now, game themed, and all of the different inclusive aspects that Unlimited Play has at each and every one of our parks will exist and even be heightened at Queenie Park because of what we've continued to learn from her committee. Mm-hmm. And then it has a unique theme of game boards within that.
Okay. How did that come about?
Oh, it was her committee suggesting all of that, a partnership with St. Louis County, allowing us to build and replace the Queenie Park playground that's there.
And do other playgrounds, too, that Unlimited Play has been involved with, they also have these themes?
Often. Imagination is a really key part of what we do, both for kids that have cognitive disabilities, to be able to give them that imaginative play, and because we build the coolest playgrounds in the area, fun for absolutely everybody with that theme.
And the parks are also named after children.
They often are named after the children that inspired the project to start.
Mm-hmm. And why, in your view, does that approach of taking those themes and naming after a child, how does that extend, Unlimited Play's mission?
Oh, I think it makes people, they hear the story and they relate to that family by remembering somebody they have known and loved that would have enjoyed a playground like this or would enjoy a playground like this. So rallying around one particular cause and a story seems like a beautiful thing for a community to do.
And I want to get to the pieces, the literal pieces that go onto a playground. So slides, and this was really interesting. They're iconic, beloved, playground staple, but conventional slides are not made with accessibility in mind. What are some of the considerations, Natalie, that go into slides that are either designed or selected for inclusivity?
Certainly. So one of them, we use a roller slide on all of our playgrounds. Kids with cochlear implants, the implant can be damaged by static electricity. So a roller slide does not have that static electricity, and they can safely experience that. The bumpy slide, like you heard earlier.
Okay. I was just about to say, I'm not sure what the roller... Okay. It's like a massage.
It is. The more you weigh, the faster you go. So it's fun for adults, too.
Right. No, many of the kids that Aula, our producer, talked to, they mentioned the climbing wall as one of their favorite activities. Tell us how climbing can be accessible and fun for all.
Certainly. So we always make sure to include 3 different levels of challenge, and we often do that through climbing. So whether, on the spectrum of abilities that you've talked about, someone may be at a certain level and they can challenge themselves by that climbing activity all the way up to a really challenging climbing wall that's difficult for parents to even do. We safely incorporate all of those things.
Right. And is there a level of consciousness, too, about what parents can do with their kids, and then maybe parents themselves who have a disability?
Of course. It's something I had not thought about when I started Unlimited Play. And then I was speaking, and a mother started crying and said she has multiple sclerosis and a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and can't take her own children to the playground. If they would get injured, she had no way to get to the top of a structure. So grateful that Unlimited Play has thought about parents.
Yeah. And how long do these playgrounds last? What does upkeep involve?
Upkeep for years is just a typical normal playground upkeep. And then surfacing is probably the number one maintenance issue 10, 15 years into it. Playgrounds will last a good 20 years.
Yeah. Are there ways that existing playgrounds can be made more accessible without doing a complete overhaul?
There's certainly ways we can add more inclusive items to existing playgrounds to at least add some inclusiveness to the area.
Now, how would you rate now, Natalie, our region's accessibility overall, since the time Zachary was a young child?
Oh, I think we have set a standard. We're the show me state, right? And we've done a really good job showing the rest of the nation the standard that should be held, particularly for playgrounds.
Now, in this last moment, Natalie, tell us what you're looking most forward to in the coming weeks and maybe over the next year.
Certainly. So Unlimited Play's annual gala, we're celebrating 20 years, September 30th. Come and join us, sponsor it. And then certainly Queenie Park. We have an amazing angel donor behind the scenes, Kevin Beckman, who's matching dollar for dollar every single donation made, along with several other projects we have going on.
Yeah, and that really does support Play for All, regardless of age.
Absolutely.
Natalie Mackay is the founder of the St. Peter's-based nonprofit Unlimited Play. Natalie, thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you for having me.
This episode was produced, recorded, and edited by Ella Kuziz.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
St. Louis on the Air proudly supports local artists by using music from Life Creative Group.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thank you.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.